This is Outnumbered. I'm Kimberly Guilfoyle, and here today, Harris Faulkner, Ainsley Earhardt, Rachel Campos Duffy, author, blogger, parenting expert, political commentator, and former star of MTV's Real World. She's also married to Republican Congressman Sean Duffy, and they have seven kids. What a couple. Wow. All right, and today's hashtag One Lucky Guy, the O'Reilly Factor's Jesse Waters, and he is outnumbered.
Yay. Good to have you both.
Yeah, it's great to have you both.
Great to be here. I don't have 7 kids, but working on it.
But you're trying. Like
you're trying.
Thank you.
That counts,
Thanks, Harris, getting it started off quickly.
Rachel, what's one more? 8 right
that's
here.
right.
That's
I'll
right.
adopt you.
Adopt me.
Another one.
That's so sweet.
Babysit Jesse Waters today. Fantastic. And Ainsley,
Quite the resume.
looking fabulous. Love the lawn. Very cute.
Thank you.
All right, lots of business to take care of. And right now, President Obama huddling with other world leaders at the NATO summit in Wales, where he's making the case for an international coalition to carry out military action against ISIS. Ahead of the summit, the commander-in-chief and British Prime Minister David Cameron teaming up for a joint op-ed in the Times of London, saying, quote, countries like Britain and America will not be cowed by barbaric killers. We will be more forthright in the defense of our values, not least because a world of greater freedom is a fundamental part of how we keep our people safe. But Ambassador John Bolton remains doubtful President Obama has woken up to the ISIS threat, as have many of America's allies in Europe, namely Great Britain.
I think the Europeans are extraordinarily concerned about the hundreds, maybe thousands of people fighting with ISIS right now who have passports to come back into their countries. And perhaps Obama hasn't figured out that we're similarly at risk, but the Europeans see it very, very acute. So it may be that will help wake him up, although personally I doubt it.
So Ambassador John Bolton being very strong and forthright from the beginning. He was not unclear about the threat that ISIS posed, not only to America, to Great Britain, to all of our allies. Still, strong words coming from him.
Well, just about everybody else, right? I mean, even Vice President Joe Biden, which you saw first his remarks here on Fox yesterday on Outnumbered, because they had just been made. He was at a shipyard in New Hampshire. You know what? We were all talking. Can we take a moment to talk about the difference between ISIS and ISIL? Are people wondering that? Because I'm seeing it on Twitter, Kimberly.
Lay it out for us,
People wonder
Harris.
why the president says it one way, right? ISIS, the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria. Pretty much they've erased the border now between those two countries. Now we're hearing ISIL. It's coming from the president. Ainsley, you pointed out in the commercial, my goodness, it might even be coming from the terrorists. They think they want to change their name.
They changed their name in the middle of all this to ISIL. They don't have the right to do that. We're going to continue to call them ISIS.
But our president is tipping his hat to that.
They changed the name. It's the Islamic State of
So it's the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Levant is a bigger territory. That's why they want to embrace that name, and it includes many, many more countries than just Syria.
And I think the president doesn't want to have it be just Iraq and Syria, because that brings to mind the president's failed policies in Iraq, which you said the Iraq war is over, and Syria, which you drew the red line and then basically vacated it. When they say Levant, that's broadening it out, and it kind of doesn't remind people that this is his policy, which has kind of brought this to the focus.
Let's talk about the president. Yeah, let's talk about the president here and whether or not he is completely understanding, cognizant of this very credible terrorist threat that is really threatening the United States, Britain. We hear strong leadership coming from David Cameron. Now, if you look at the new polls that just came out, a Gallup poll showing 39% approval rating, a 5-point drop for President Obama, because people are saying, where is the leadership, Rachel?
Well, I think that what we're used to is our president sets the agenda and then gets the rest of the world on board to agree with. But we're now holding back, waiting for them to come up with the plan. As he said, he has no strategy. I mean, look at World War II. I mean, the Europeans were looking to us, running to us. Here we are, running to Europe to figure out what to do in a crisis that obviously is going to come to our shores soon.
Ainsley, the United States, America, always the strong, the proud, the leader, the forefront against injustice in the world, against terrorist threats. Now it seems the United States taking a back seat because this president is uncomfortable in a leadership position.
I have a friend that was texting me last night saying, listen, you talk about this day in and day out. We have, you know, we have so much access to the Associated Press and what's happening in the White House. And she said, should I really be worried? And I said, is this what my grandfathers fought for?
Right.
You know, we've got to protect our borders. We have to make sure Americans are safe. And I'm glad that the president is finally engaging in this topic with, you know, other world leaders. But like Ambassador Bolton said, I'm not sure he understands the seriousness of this. I mean, at the press conference in Estonia, the president of Estonia addressed the second beheading right out of the gate. Our president talked about Bruce Springsteen and Obamacare and technology and then addressed it. You know, and I hate to be so critical, but it's like, get your, you know, this is a big deal. People are being beheaded. These are lives. Families are going to celebrate holidays without their loved ones, and I feel like we could be doing something about it.
No, you're right. And Harris, they are murdering Americans. So the Constitution certainly affords the president the right to act to defend the citizens of this country. So he's well within his realm of power and authority to be able to make decisive actions with respect to Iraq and Syria.
They're not just murdering Americans. They've been murdering Christians. They're beheading on video.
That's
They're
exactly right.
sending out clear signals that we are at war with you. You know what I'm watching for today with this NATO summit? The meeting that's going to be on the sidelines with King Abdullah of Jordan.
Yes.
And you know why that's important? First of all, Jordan is not a NATO member, but they're a non-NATO member ally, right? So he's going to meet with him. We have bases set up inside Jordan where we're training moderate people over there to take on ISIS, if you will. But what's interesting about that is now we've just learned that ISIS reportedly has crossed over the border from Iraq into Jordan. They could be the next country to fight this. So I mentioned the Levant real quickly. That's one of the countries that's mentioned.
That's right.
On that list of the Levant, Israel. Where are these people going?
Right. I think there is a strong point to be made that I think the allies and the American people realize this is an emperor without any clothes. You're looking at a president that's kind of acting like an empty suit here. We have him off prompter, basically telling us what he really thinks. He doesn't want to defeat and destroy the terrorists. He wants to manage them. Now, imagine if in World War II, FDR went out and said, oh, you know what, well, we need to manage the Nazis. You know, he's totally out of touch, and I'm wondering how many Americans beheaded is he willing to tolerate under his own watch? The president's great at putting out a political strategy where he wins elections and he divides people. He divides people by race or gender along those type of lines. But when it comes to something like this, the war on terror, you need to unite people. He hasn't been able to do it. I wish the president would go after the terrorists with the same passion that he goes after
but he's
Republicans.
not comfortable in his position of as commander-in-chief with respect to national security issues and foreign policy, and it really shows. He'd rather focus on ideology and domestic issues. And meantime, given the urgency posed by ISIS, Fox News asked U.S. Ambassador to the UN Samantha Power, the president of the Security Council this month, why the world body is waiting to act until President Obama arrives at UN headquarters 3 weeks from now. Take a listen.
It will not suffice if it is the United States and just the few partners who have stepped up at this point dealing with this threat. We need all hands on deck.
So you see leadership coming up from Samantha Power consistently, actually. She's to be applauded for the consistency of her message, understanding this threat, that it is imminent. Instead, you see the president juxtaposed. He doesn't seem to be getting it.
You know, again, I go back to that summit meeting that the president is scheduled to have today with the leader of Jordan. I mean, I can only hear like a fly on the wall. I'd love to know what that conversation will be. I can only hear him saying, look, ISIS just crossed the border reportedly from Iraq into my country. Jordan, by the way, is mobilizing their military. Like, they know this is coming. I'm sure there's going to be a question from the king to the president. What are we waiting for? What are you waiting for?
Well, the king seems to get it. He's actually on record making very strong statements.
This is what leading from behind looks like. And this is what's interesting, is now we're seeing what is unfolding, and that when America is weak, the world is a more dangerous place. And you have even the United Arab Emirates saying stronger words and calling for action more than our own president. The Middle East is scared.
I'm not surprised, though, that the UN is dragging its feet on addressing a huge international crisis. That doesn't surprise me at all. The point is, we don't need China and Russia's approval to take military action against terrorists. We don't need it. And I don't understand why anybody would want to join a coalition that doesn't have a strategy. And that has kind of pulled the rug out from under our allies on a number of other occasions.
Well, you know why they joined? Because we've got the best military in the world. And they're hoping that we're going to help save them.
Bring it on.
Even us without a strategy, America is so great. Even us without a strategy is better than some with one.
But we elected a president, not the European Union to protect us, and that's why we expect him to.
Yeah,
leave.
but right now
and
he's
that's
a
why his
punter,
poll numbers are so down right now, because people they think he's checked out at this point. But if you even look at the poll numbers in California, we were just talking about this, your state, Kimberly, it's blue state, as you know. The president's approval rating has fallen to a record low there. As many approve of him as disapprove. It's 45%, 43% respectively. And then you were talking about how many more Americans have to be beheaded. Well, if he's not making a decision until the last week of September, my gosh, I hate to even think about that.
It's sick. I'm afraid that the country is now building up a tolerance, and it's desensitizing us to these beheadings. If you have one, that's one thing. If you have two, and there's still no action, there's more golf and op-eds and summits, I really don't think the president's tapped into the American bloodstream. This country doesn't want to nuke the Middle East, but we want vengeance and we want strategy.
Can I say one thing about these beheadings? I mean, talk about a war on women. There is a war on the grieving mothers of these people. I mean, you have, first of all, in Benghazi, Patricia Smith lying, not getting to the bottom of it, and the indignities that she's had to endure. And in the same case here with the Sotloff beheading, where information was leaked, again, one indignity after another. This is a war on grieving women, and that the press has ignored these stories and the actions of the administration, I think, is really outrageous.
And you're right. Remember when President Obama talked about Foley dying, and then the parents had their press conference? It was when we were all working together on Outnumbered, and the president, like 10 minutes later, was out on the golf course. Like, what message
exactly
is he telling
these
the parents?
indignities? This is the war on women. This is the war on grieving women who are victims of the policies of this administration.
Yeah, and the vacuum, the absence of leadership. Well, Republicans blasting the head of the DNC after she used domestic violence terms to criticize the governor of Wisconsin. What Debbie Wasserman Schultz said and whether she crossed the line. And what to do when your kid has a cold and you have a deadline at work. The debate over whether parents should get more sick days or not. And right after the show, oh yeah, catch more from the couch, right, Harris? Join us for Outnumbered Overtime by logging on to foxnews.com/outnumbered. Click on the Overtime tab. Tweet us your questions, your comments, or tell us what topic you want to hear more about.